Thanks for tuning in to Cam and Company here on NRAnews.com and Sirius XM Patriot. Sorry again for the long pause. I had to moonwalk over to the microphone before I could start talking. Still to come on the program this hour, Rachel Parsons, NRA ILA Media Liaison. Right now, Scott Lewis, the Texas Legislative Director for Students for Concealed Carry on Campuses with us. Scott, good evening, sir.
Hey, Kim. Thanks for having me back.
You bet. Busy week in Austin, as I understand.
It has been a crazy week in Austin.
All right, so I think I've got our listeners caught up. The campus protection measure was amended to a Senate bill, voted out of the Senate by a vote of 19 to 12. Now it's over onto the House side, and we're waiting for this bill to be called up for a vote in the Texas State House. Is that correct?
That's correct. In fact, the bill was supposed to be called up today, but it's attached to one of two very important, very controversial finance bills. And so there was a lot of jockeying, a lot of posturing today in the Texas House. It was a little bit like watching a fish try to ride a bicycle. And it got delayed until tomorrow while everybody caucuses and tries to reach agreements and things like that. And so it's going to be, it is a horse race to the finish line here to see if we're going to make it or not. But it's going to be a serious fight tomorrow because there's going to be this bill and one other major bill are going to be debated. Those two bills are probably going to take up the whole day. They could even roll over into Friday. And a lot of people are going to try to kill our bill on points of order and other things like that. And so it's going to be, it's going to be intense to see who comes out of this thing ahead.
All right. What's the most important thing that gun owners can be doing right now, supporters of this legislation?
Honestly, at this point, I think the most important thing they can be doing is praying, because at this point we have contacted everybody we need to contact. We've gotten through all of the committees we need to get through, and basically, if they want to call the Speaker of the House, that could be beneficial. Just call the Speaker and because he's the one who's going to rule on any points of order or anything like that.
Okay.
So if you want to call Speaker Joe Strauss and just tell him that you strongly support the Campus Carry Amendment to Senate Bill 1581, that could be beneficial. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot they can do because this is basically going to come down to just a legislative street fight in the Texas House.
All right. Now, as I understand it, Scott, the bill has the campus protection measure has the support of more than half of the Texas State House, right?
Well, that's really the frustrating thing, Kim. This is the second session in a row, and remember, the Texas legislature only meets every other year. So over the past 4 years, 2 sessions in a row, we have had overwhelming support in both houses of the Texas legislature. But people just our opponents keep throwing up these procedural hurdles, these parliamentary challenges. And, Texas has a legislature. I think it's probably the most complicated legislature in North America. It is extremely hard to pass legislation through the Texas legislature. And most of the time that's a good thing. It keeps us from having a lot of unnecessary laws. But, our legislature meets every other year. They have a rule that you have to have 2/3 of the Senate agree to bring up a bill. They have a rule that any amendment to a bill must be germane to the issue at hand. You have a rule that a bill can't address more than one issue. And so it gets very complicated. There are a lot of challenges that can be raised to a legislation. There's a lot of ways for even a small minority of opponents to kill a bill, and that's what we run into 2 sessions in a row, is that our opponents are able to slow down these bills and try to run out the clock on us. Mm-hmm. And we are as far as we've gotten right now because we actually have a bill scheduled on the House floor for a debate. Last session we got through the Senate, and then there was a filibuster of an unrelated bill, and that kept us from ever getting scheduled on the House floor. Now we actually have a bill that's gotten through the Senate. It's gotten through the House committees, the Calendars Committee. It's scheduled on the House floor, and so we, at the very least, we're going to actually have our bill called up on the floor of the House, which is something we've never had before.
Yeah.
And so, we're excited about that. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
All right. Now, you said they're going to try to derail this any way that they can. I'm guessing they'll try to amend, tack on other amendments to the legislation. They'll try to do that. Will they also try to rule or try to get a ruling that the amendment, the campus protection amendment, is not germane to the underlying bill?
That will probably be their first tactic. We got this. The bill it's attached to deals with college finance issues. And because the Senate usually takes a very loose interpretation of germaneness, we were able to get this this campus protection amendment tacked on there, and they ruled it was germane. Now, the House is going to challenge it and say it's not germane. Our opponents in the House are. And so what we're hoping is that the Speaker of the House will side with us and say that it is germane, and we just, at this point, we have no idea of knowing how that's going to come down. And, of course, there are so many factors playing in this because this is such a crucial bill. Mm-hmm. If this bill does not pass, they're probably going to have to go into a special session next month because the regular session ends at the end of May, and the two bills they're debating tomorrow, if they don't pass, then they're pretty much backed into a corner, and they have to call a special session in June, and nobody wants that to happen. I mean, it costs the state a lot of money. You know, the legislators have to cancel their vacation plans. It doesn't make anybody happy. So, you know, what happens tomorrow is going to be interesting to say the least.
All this fuss, Scott, over, you know, folks just simply wanting to exercise the right to carry that, you know, exists outside of a college campus.
Well, and it's such a well-supported proposal. If you look at the facts and the arguments, you know, 71 college campuses outside of Texas have allowed it for an average of more than 3 years. Mm-hmm. They have not seen a single resulting incident of gun violence. They have not seen a single resulting gun accident. Throughout the rest of the state of Texas, you know, we've allowed concealed carry for the past 15 years. And yet, the rate of concealed carry is one person out of every 55 is licensed to carry a concealed handgun in Texas, and yet you're 20 times more likely to be struck by lightning than to be murdered or negligently killed by a concealed handgun license holder. I mean, it just has a very, very strong, safe track record, you know, on the college campuses where it's allowed throughout the rest of Texas. There's no reason to assume it's going to cause problems on Texas college campuses, but it strikes a nerve with gun control activists, and it just rubs them the wrong way, and they are willing to basically expend all of their political capital fighting this.
Oh yeah, and you know the arguments that they've used, Scott. I mean, they're really trashing young college students. I mean, they're these young adults are saying, oh, they can never handle the responsibility. They're way too irresponsible. They drink too much. They do too many drugs. I mean, these are supposedly the best and brightest. These are, the shining lights of the next generation. And yet the gun control advocates think that they're all just a bunch of drunken hooligans who, could never be trusted to exercise a constitutional right.
Right. They either want to make this about who can carry as opposed to where license holders can carry, and that's really what it's about. We're not changing who can carry, we're changing where they can carry.
Right.
Or they want to conflate college campuses with college life. They want to start talking about frat houses and keg parties and bars and all of these things that happen off campus. This law would not change the law, this amendment we have filed would not change the laws at fraternity houses. It would not change the laws at off-campus parties. It would not change the laws at tailgating events or bars or any of those places where students are presumed to drink or engage in high-risk activity or any of that. I don't remember the last time I saw somebody walking through a lecture hall dragging a keg or a six-pack behind them. That's where this is going to change the rules. I always tell people, why do we trust these people to carry concealed handguns at the public library but not the campus library? Why can they carry into a local restaurant but not into the cafeteria? Things like that. It's not that different. It's really not any different from the places where they're already allowed to carry, and yet we hear these absurd hypotheses about these preposterous notions of what's going to happen if this is allowed.
Yeah. Well, Scott, so tomorrow should be the day then, right?
You know what? The debate's going to start tomorrow. Whether or not it ends tomorrow, I can't say. It could carry on well past midnight, or they could delay the debate and finish it on Friday. So there's just no way of telling at this point. But it's going to be a long, drawn-out debate probably, and we'll just, we'll see where the cards, what the cards show at the end. All
right. Well, Scott, thank you again, sir, for coming on the program tonight, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Scott Lewis, the Texas Legislative Director for Students for Concealed Carry on Campus, joining us here this evening.